Korewa Nihon no Dakusaido. Sorry for my terrible or below average Japanese, but I had to open up with something Japanese oriented because Yamaha is calling this new MT-15 the dark side of Japan. This is the latest product from the MT series that is going to make its appearance in India, and we just got to ride it around BIC. So I'm gonna give you my first impressions of this bike and what I feel after having ridden it on the track. I personally am quite impressed with the front of the MT-15. It is reminiscent of the bigger MT-09, but it's still quite different. So you have these bi-beam projector lamps right there, and they look very much like one of those old cool Japanese samurais, and I think Yamaha has done a great job with the styling of the front. On the side, this bike will undoubtedly remind you of the FZ, and that is not essentially a bad thing. It's a very good looking naked bike. You have this stubby exhaust, and on the road it looks stunning. Even when you look at the back, you have this nice tail lamp. It's quite sleek and quite modern looking. The extended mudguard also accentuates the great looks of this bike. So all in all, I think this bike scores great points, at least in terms of how it looks.
Sadly, the quality of plastics does not feel as premium as the bike is positioned to be.
Let me talk about the ergonomics and the seating position for a while now. The handlebar is different from the R15 despite this bike sharing a lot of its engine and other specifications with the other bike. So you have a more conventional handlebar for everyday riding, and it's quite easy to reach, but the seat, now that is a bit of a problem. You see, the curve for the rider ends too soon, so that means taller riders like me don't have a lot of space to move back, which means that after riding it on the track for a little while, I did experience pain in my knees. So while the riding position is upright, for taller people I think it's a little too upright. Even the rear foot pegs are positioned a bit too close to the rider, but that's not going to be a big problem since this bike, even though it has a pillion seat, is not really meant for pillion riding. The mirrors thankfully are quite nice and big, so you have a decent view of what is at the back, and you have decent quality switches, and you also get the digital instrument cluster, which was also seen in the R15. You have lots of information including your gear position, your RPM gauge, fuel indicator, speed, average, your trip meters. So you have all those goodies with it. Now this is the 155cc single cylinder liquid cooled engine, which is also seen in the R15 V3, but the engine has been tuned a bit differently than the R15, even though it produces the same amount of power. So you have about 19 horsepower and about 14.7 Newton meters of torque, coming in quite high in the RPM band, but still Yamaha says that they've tuned the response and the peak torque and peak power curve a little bit so that it has a little more grunt in the lower end. Of course, on the track we could not really experience the low end, but at the top end this bike feels as spirited as its fair sibling. The engine has been mated to a 6-speed gearbox with slip and assist clutch, and that too works absolutely great. So no problem in the engine performance, in the riding ability of this bike. Even though it's a naked bike, I could ride it quite fast and quite quickly, and around the corners this was pretty good thanks to these Nylon Grip Zapper tires. They do a fantastic job of holding the bike together and help you maintain your line. But that's no surprise, I guess, because the R15 itself was such a great performer, and at its heart the MT is no different. The suspension that you have consists of a telescopic fork at the front and a monoshock right over there. Now, I was a little disappointed to see that Yamaha has missed out on the USD forks, but despite that, this bike handles quite well. At no point did I feel the suspension was too cushiony. It was pretty great for the track, and I had no problem taking those curves. What I was a little disappointed to see was that Yamaha has not included dual channel ABS on this bike. So you get single channel ABS, but you have disc brakes both at the front and the rear. In its defense though, the front brakes do work well. Compared to the R15, I think this has a much better gradual response, which is more tuned for the road. The bite on the R15 was a little too savage, but this has a very nice feel to it, and even the rear brake does a pretty decent job of bringing you to a stop. So what are my final thoughts on the MT-15? Well, as a bike, hear me out, as a bike this is not a bad product. It's a perfectly capable bike, but the problem is the price tag. Yamaha has priced it admittedly a little higher than we would have liked. At 1.36 lakh rupees ex-showroom Delhi, it's just 2,000 to 3,000 rupees shy of its fair sibling. And in my opinion, since that has the dual channel ABS, which this misses out on, plus that has a fairing and also looks great, I would say that if you were struggling to decide between this and the R15, I would recommend that you go for the R15, because that I think is a better product when compared to this. That is what I think of the bike. Tell me what you think. Do you like the styling of this Samurai, or are you not impressed by it, or if you like the price or not? Do let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below, and make sure that you subscribe to our channel, because we will be getting this bike for a proper road test where we will experience more and find out more things about this bike. So until the next time, stay safe when you're riding or when you're driving. Bye bye.